Let's start with our top story here. India's aviation sector that's looking at the worst meltdown in decades. And IndiGo, the airline that once bragged about IndiGo standard time, has now gone into a full-blown tailspin. The government of India has now stepped in, ordering a high-level inquiry into this unprecedented breakdown that's left thousands of passengers across India stranded for hours. When I say hours, some even 24 hours waiting, not going back, hoping that they catch their flight. If not, they might not even get it for the next few days. Today alone, over 400 IndiGo flights were cancelled, and in total last 4 days, we hear 1,000 flights have been cancelled. Major airports were filled with angry flyers and protests that broke out, many of them even reporting baggage loss. What caused such a catastrophic failure at an airline that controls 60% of India's skies? A pilot rostering disaster, a planning failure so big that even IndiGo admits that it misjudged and fumbled the rollout of the DGCA second phase of the FDTL crew rest norms. Remember, the DGCA, right after the Air India crash, in fact, right before that itself, had formulated guidelines for airlines to follow and ensure they don't overwork their staff, because passenger safety is priority. And therefore, they had given set timelines for crew to work, not more than 8 hours. And if you are traveling overnight, then you will get 1 full day rest and whatnot. So IndiGo, clearly looking at this situation at this point, has not planned in advance for the holiday season. Some technical glitches plus this roster implemented. We see IndiGo had a total meltdown which they did not anticipate. Their on-time performance crashed to a shocking 8.5%, a number that is unheard of for a market leader like IndiGo. The disruptions has now triggered a nationwide passenger emergency. The Civil Aviation Ministry has slammed emergency measures that they're now trying to bring into action. Some quick measures to try and fix the problem at the earliest. They're constituting a 4-member committee to pinpoint responsibility. The DGCA has granted IndiGo relief from night duty restrictions now for pilots and allowing a little easing of the duty time norms just to prevent a deeper collapse, so that this can pass, at least the holiday season disaster they could overcome. To protect passengers caught in this mess now, the DGCA has asked airlines to ensure that full refunds are given for all the flights that are cancelled up to December 15th. Hotel accommodation for stranded flyers mandatory, priority support for the elderly and differently abled, constant flight status updates should be provided through improved digital monitors, and refreshments and essentials for those who are stuck at airports for hours. These are the complaints that passengers had, that the airlines completely ignored their grievance. Well, IndiGo tonight has apologized. In its statement, the airline concedes that its network has been significantly disrupted for few days and that planning gaps had triggered this chaos. That's the bitter truth. The market leader failed to plan and India paid the price. IndiGo has now told DGCA that it will cut flight capacity from December 8th. They're going to reduce the number of flights so that they are able to cater to people, their passengers, efficiently, and it expects full stability only by February 10th, 2026. Now, how did such a big airline in a country miscalculate so badly? Let's take you through some of the reactions, including the Civil Aviation Minister and IndiGo CEO.
I want to share with you that we have experienced severe operational disruptions for the past few days. Since then, the crisis continued to aggravate, with today, December 5th, being the most severely impacted day, with the number of cancellations well over 1,000, or more than half of our number of daily flights. I, on behalf of all of us at IndiGo, would like to extend our sincerest apologies for the major inconvenience this has caused to many of our customers.
Mismanagement that has happened at the IndiGo regarding their crew, that is why this incident has happened, which is why, to ensure normalcy is there at the earliest, we have given certain abeyance to the FDTL norms to IndiGo. We are taking strict action on this so that whoever was responsible into this needs to pay for it.
All right, let me quickly cut across to our panelists joining us for a little more in detail as to why such a catastrophic failure here. Indian aviation has never seen such a meltdown possibly in history. Let's go over to Sanjeev Kumar, a stranded passenger. We have Captain Prashant Dalla, former flight operations inspector of the DGCA, and Captain Sanjay Karvi, aviation expert and former accountable manager, aviation government of Maharashtra. Let me start with Captain Prashant Dalla, former flight operations inspector of the DGCA. Prashant, would you agree this is the first time in history that we're seeing an aviation meltdown like this, where 1,000-odd flights in the last 4 days have been cancelled only to reboot the system? A tragedy, because we are looking at the largest, across the globe. I think India has the largest number of domestic flights and passengers. We've just grown in size, and today, when we are known to be the busiest domestic route, this kind of crash has really come heavy on the airline and passengers, people at large. What happened?
Nabila, thank you for having me on your show. While I must comment on the level of research your team has done for this particular aspect, and you're absolutely right in saying that the quantum of flights which are operated by an low cost carrier such as IndiGo is huge, and it has really led to a big major chaos kind of a situation. Having said that, Indigo for the last 10 years has also evolved from approximately about 100 aircrafts to today somewhere about 400 aircrafts. They have also gotten certain softwares in their system. It is no more a human driven airline. It is more of a software driven airline. Thus, we are seeing such kind of an instance wherein the software has not been tried to, they have not tried to get those relevant changes in the software, which has led to this kind of a chaos situation. And coming to the DGCA car, this particular exercise was started approximately 2 years back. So the airlines such as Indigo, Air India, and other subject matter experts were very well part of the deliberations and the I can take the liberty to say the word negotiations with the government. I was also part of the drafting committee then. Uh, the matter went to the court. The court had given an ultimatum of July 1st and in phase 2 November. So there has been an issue wherein the airline has totally misjudged the court order as well as the requirement, and it is a case of self admission of the CEO, and the Honorable Union Civil Aviation Minister has also granted certain relaxations to the airline in the larger interest of the public, which is a very welcome move.
Okay. What I hear is that they've cancelled 1,000 flights to sort of reboot the system, because that was the only option that was left. But my question here is, why did the biggest airline, the market leader like Indigo, underestimate the DGCA FDTL norms? They underestimated pilot fatigue norms, and that's quite clear here with the way they've handled the situation after it sort of fell down, it came down heavy on them, also is a big question. Not responding to passengers the way they should, and 4 days on, they did not have anything that they were catered with. No refreshments, no hotels, flight refunds were something they did not commit to. So passengers were just left stranded at the airport waiting without any information or communication. So at least that should have been done by an airline who's known to be a market leader. Now that's what's shocking, that they not just underestimated the pilot fatigue norms, but they also terribly faltered when it came to customer service. Just communicating with passengers and conveying what the issue was really not visible.
You're absolutely right. With the photos and the videos which are coming out from various different airports across India, my heart goes out to all the passengers. It is a total chaos kind of a situation, and it really not expected from an airline which holds more than 60% of the country's air traffic. Having said that, that is where the public trust has to be regained, in terms of the solidarity, and I'm very happy to see Air India, adding certain extra number of flights to fly customers from point A to point B. And also this relaxation of given by the government is I was going through the report. It goes down to about 12-15 points, wherein the DGCA inspectors who are also being asked to fly these aircrafts, and the government is really trying hard to get normalcy. And I'm sure in the next 48 to 72 hours things should be beginning, and there should be normalcy in the system.
Okay. Well, the 48 hours is too long. 4 days plus another 2 days. That's literally a week that the aviation sector has crashed. And Indigo being a market leader, it seems like the entire aviation sector was relying so heavily on one airline that the ministry, aviation ministry only itself at this point is thoroughly embarrassed. Captain Sanjay Karve, would you want to come in on that? This dependency on one large airline, a market leader, after Jet Airways, went bankrupt, Indigo really picked up and became the market leader with, infusing many more flights, and their on-time performance was lauded, and they expanded their crew, and that much money pumped into the business. At this point, with this kind of meltdown, it's left the entire country embarrassed, the government embarrassed. People who are travelers, who are foreigners in the country, what are they going to think? What message are we sending out that we had no control of our aviation sector? We relied heavily on one airline. People are relying heavily on one airline, and here's what they had to face. An absolute blunder that could have been avoided.
Thanks, Nabila, for having me on your show. Now, as you would notice, and like the captain had just mentioned, the initial car came out in Jan 2024. So everyone in the airline industry in the country had more than adequate time to react and take preparatory action. To wait till 1st of December and then say, look, I was not prepared. The question which the government should ask the airline is, what were you doing for last 23 months? Or was Indigo, by virtue of being the market leader, assured that nothing can happen? They are going to get an extension. DGCA will continue to give waivers. The government will continue to buckle down. It is just that the Delhi High Court refused to buckle down, and they gave an ultimatum which left the government or DGCA with no choice but to implement their own car. Now, when DGCA says that we implemented a car in 2024, making it stringent, let us be very honest to ourselves. This was because of the regulatory audits carried out by FAA and ICAO. Even the first car which came out on FDTL was because of pressure from ICAO. Otherwise, the Indian standards on FDTL have always been very lax. It is only recently this existing car has tightened the screws. On an average, Indigo has 11 to 12 pilots per aircraft, whereas the industry norm is between 17 to 18 pilots per aircraft. Now, when you are having such a huge schedule, 2,200 flights a day with 11 pilots per aircraft and 24 hours rest period, suddenly your rest period goes up to 48 hours. Your night landings from 5 come down to 2. Obviously, this number of pilots that you have, you will not be able to handle this schedule. The question here is, when the winter schedule was given to DGCA, didn't DGCA give it a thought? Or didn't DGCA ask Indigo, look, there is this car in place, which is going to come into picture anytime. Do you have the whereabouts or means to follow the regulation that we have laid down and then stick to the schedule? It is very obvious that this question was never asked, because if this question was asked before the schedule was approved, we wouldn't have reached this stage. Or probably everyone was so certain that they will get another date from the court. This will continue moving forward. The Christmas season, the holiday season would get over. We'll go into February and March. And like the last 2 years, the things would continue. So anyone who claims that we did not have time, it's a false statement. Jan 2024 and we are in 5th of December 2025. There has been a hiring freeze in Indigo. So are you trying to tell us that you are so certain that this car has got no relevance? It is not
Please,
going to
sir.
come into practice. It will be there only on paper. So I need not worry about it. On top of that, if you see the statement issued by the government and the DGCA, it appears as if the pilots are at fault. The tone of the letter is the pilots and the pilot union must cooperate with the organization to bring in normalcy. Is it the pilots who have created this chaos?
Correct.
No. It is the management who have brought them to this stage. And who are
So,
the
but
people who
can I
are being
ask you,
blamed
why was there a
indirectly? They
hiring
are the
freeze? Why
pilots.
did Indigo stop hiring? Were they working on a lean force? Were they working on a lean force already? Why did they stop hiring?
They wanted to keep that force lean and have their balance sheet looking very nice and healthy. If you know, Indigo has been the only airline in last couple of years which has always been profit making. And to put it very bluntly, the CEO's salary is linked to Indigo's profit making. Today, he takes home a salary of roughly $5 million a year. If Indigo goes into loss, his salary is going to go down. The best part is, who are the people who are bearing the brunt of the passenger fury? Is it the top management of Indigo? No. Is it the top management of DGCA? No. Is it the top management of Mocha? No. It is the crew which is manning the counters at the airport. They are the one who are bearing the brunt for no fault of theirs. They are
Yeah.
just not involved in this mess, but they are the ones who are handling the passengers. And everyone says, oh, Indigo doesn't care. People have run away from the counters. What will you do? You please ask this question to yourself. When you're standing on the counter, you don't know what your management's thought process is. You don't know what your management is planning to do. You really don't know how they're going to handle it. What answer are you going to give to the passengers? There are no answers when the management itself is not very open with you. Today, the CEO says, we have grounded 1,000 flights today, and by 15th, everything will be in order. That means my schedule will be in order. If everything is going to be in order on 15th of December, why do you require a waiver until 10th of February? The first day, Indigo's statement was, this was basically because we were trying to upgrade the Airbus fleet. Just look back on Saturday. Saturday afternoon, they came out with a statement saying, all my Airbus aircraft have been upgraded and we are in compliance with the manufacturer's requirement. The next statement they put out was, all these flights have got disrupted because of fog in North India. Wonderful. No station in North India has reported fog in last 96 hours. So where has Indigo found this fog so that the aircrafts have got disrupted? The third statement they came out, pilots have refused to fly. Very interesting. Till the time DGC gave a waiver, the pilots had to stick to the new rules laid down by DGCA on FDTL. Because the beautiful part of the system is, if the pilot violates the rule, the pilot is going to lose his license. So the pilot is very much right in saying, look, I'm not going to break the FDTL. So it's a very convenient way. First, blame Airbus. Second, blame the weather, which did not exist. Third, blame the pilots. And now all the reports which are coming out from the government and DGCA, the way it has been framed and worded, it is as if the pilots are the main culprit. They are requesting the pilots to cooperate. Cooperate in what? Who created the mess?
I
Did the
hear you,
pilots
but
create it?
could there be a conspiracy theory? Captain Sanjay Karve, there are conspiracy theories, and I want you to give me your sense on it. Could it be that Indigo sort of, ignored the intensity or the seriousness of the DGCA rules and went into it in a casual way, thinking, okay, we'll see what happens. If flights are cancelled, holiday season, aviation industry will buckle, the DGCA might withdraw or revoke the tough FDTL rules, and maybe then they can have their crew overwork back to getting them on duty more number of hours than what the DGCA is now prescribed. So a little bit of pressure will push the DGCA to withdraw those rules. But this was not anticipated. I think even Indigo, nobody must have anticipated this kind of meltdown. What a crash down effect that it's had. I think Indian aviation has never seen something like this before. Would you agree with this kind of a conspiracy theory?
I wouldn't call it conspiracy. What I would call it overconfidence. They were so confident that this car would never be implemented. Like always, the airlines were against this car. Even the previous FDTL car, if you throw your mind a few years ago, DGCA had come up with a car which they had to withdraw. Imagine a car which has been introduced, so called for safety of passenger, gets withdrawn because of pressure from airlines. Today, the DGCA may claim, no, we are carrying out a scientific study and we were waiting for the report of the scientific study. But the fact of the matter is, the car was withdrawn. If the scientific study was being carried out, why was the hurry to introduce the car? It is very obvious because there was an FAA audit, there was an ICAO audit which was coming in. There was a fear of India getting downgraded. The monopoly system in India, where IndiGo being the sole airline practically catering for majority of the domestic flyers, did have a role to play in this. If we had 3 or 4 airlines in the skies, about 20-25% of the share, it wouldn't have happened like this. Today you have just one airline. They knew the government at some stage will have to buckle down, which actually has happened today. We have given them waiver or extension up to 10th of February. So what happens to the talk of flight safety? What happens to the talk of passenger safety? We talk big. We have come out with this regulation for the safety of the passengers. So what it means is, oh well, from now till 10th of February, in God we trust. Don't worry about it. We'll look after your safety after 10th of February. Last year, when there was same issue with Akasa, SpiceJet, the government was very prompt in issuing notices to those airlines. What has happened today? Last 3 days, I don't see any notice.
I want to know what kind of punishment will IndiGo face? What kind of punishment will IndiGo face? If anything, this is absolute harassment. Just a refund does not solve the real crisis. Passengers who had a host of deadlines to meet, they all now are facing such a setback. Many of them have such sad stories. I have with me one of the passengers himself, Sanjeev Kumar. Sanjeev, I will come to you. I'm going to give our viewers as well a roundup on the emotions that exploded at airports across the country over the last few days. Let's take you through what we saw at airports, including Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Indore, Pune, Delhi, of course, and a host of other metro cities. And here's what we saw. Air travel in India that hit an outrageous new high. In fact, flight tickets that are being booked, people who are booking flight tickets now after this absolute meltdown of the aviation sector are now paying double, triple, 5 times the price for their tickets. If I could show you, Delhi to Mumbai, what used to cost 5,350 is now touching 1.7 lakh. Delhi to Chennai from 5,900 now 1.6 lakh for the ticket. Delhi to Hyderabad, what was 90,000? In fact, we hear that the ticket, which is hardly 6,000-7,000, is now 90,000 for a one-way ticket. Delhi to Kolkata from 4,620 is 98,000. This is how high prices have shot up. A mad scramble to get on any flight has sent fares now skyrocketing as thousands desperately trying to escape the airport hell. Because IndiGo, India's biggest airline, has now suffered its worst operational meltdown. 400 flights today alone, 1,000 flights overall in the last 4 days have been cancelled. In metro cities that saw that chaos was Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru, Hyderabad, all choked. Passengers now living that nightmare as I speak. One of them was Namita, who was carrying her father's ashes on her way to Haridwar for Asthi Visarjan. Her flight got cancelled and she had to rebook on another airline. She was asked to pay 60,000 rupees and she had no money.
मेरे डैड की अस्थियां है मेरे साथ और मुझे यहाँ बेंगलोर से सबसे पहले दिल्ली जाना है. दिल्ली से फ्लाइट लेना है देहरादून से हम लोग हरिद्वार जाएंगे. विसर्जन करना है कल, बट इन्होंने सडनली फ्लाइट कैंसिल कर दिया. हमारे पास प्रायर नोटिफिकेशन कुछ भी नहीं भेजा इन लोगों ने. एंड अभी हमें ये फोर्स कर रहे हैं कि अगर आप, हमारे पास कोई फ्लाइट्स नहीं है आज के लिए, अगर आपको चाहिए तो आप दूसरी एयर इंडिया या कुछ और कीजिए. उनका फ्लाइट टिकट्स आज पर पर्सन 60,000 है, विच आई कैनॉट अफोर्ड. And we are 5 people here. We want to go, and there are no train tickets, no bus tickets.
And then we saw a newlywed couple who were forced to attend their own wedding reception online because their Bhubaneswar flight did not even take off. The wedding couple had to address the guests that they had invited through a video conference call. One passenger sadly lost his mind. A passenger there really lost his mind as his daughter was on her first day of periods, and he literally begged the airport staff there to give him a sanitary pad. A father there arguing and fighting with the airport staff there to give him a pad. Frequent flyer in Chennai who was told that her flight was cancelled. Staff even handed her the paperwork. She arrived and she said she was told her flights were cancelled. She had to go back. And then a few minutes later, the airport staff calls her saying that the flight is just about to leave. Where are you? She missed her flight.
In the morning when I came, around 5 o'clock, I went to the IndiGo counter. They told me flight is cancelled. When actually it wasn't cancelled. I said, are you sure? I showed my boarding pass. They said, yes. Very sure your flight is cancelled. Please go back home. Then I was, asked to go to exit number 8. I went there. The IndiGo staff over there wrote everything, all the details. And then I was sent home. And around 7 o'clock, somebody calls me from the boarding gate saying that, ma'am, where are you? The flight is about to leave.
Look at the piles of luggage, thousands of bags, all dumped at Delhi airport. Passengers searching for their own suitcases for hours. No food, no water, no information. Some stranded for 12 hours and more. This is the worst aviation collapse that India has seen in years. And IndiGo's CEO admits that the airline had to cancel thousands of flights to reboot. 1,000 precisely the number. But until the reboot works, millions of Indians are now paying the price in money and in misery. If I could finally bring in our standard passenger, Sanjeev Kumar. Sanjeev, sorry I came to you at the fag end of this, but you waited, and you really waited for hours at the airport. Tell us, what was the response of the team? Why was it so poorly handled?
No, thanks for having me. And look, waiting it was excruciatingly painful. I mean, I took a flight which was supposed to take off at 7:20 a.m. So you wake up at 4 a.m. to catch that flight. So this is the series of things that kind of tells you what's happened. So we saw on the display that the flight is delayed by an hour. You can tolerate that. And then after that 8:30, the flight was delayed till 12:30. Then after the 12:30, the flight was delayed till 2:30. And then the flight took off around 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. So just imagine that. Now, people have the right to be emotional. So I want to share some of the experience with your audience and maybe the other two people who are in this discussion. Look, the frontline staff aren't really trained for crisis management. And people are very emotional. Customers are very, very emotional. So, I had to step in to help one of the operational guy. I want to acknowledge his name, Himanshu, at Chandigarh Airport, because there were too much pressure. People were screaming at these poor, literally kids. They're not too old. I mean, they're in their probably mid-20s, early 30s. So for me, they're kids. And, you could see on their face, they were like, why am I doing this? So you have to basically help them create protocols or how you create crisis management, meaning, if somebody's flying to Chennai, I was flying to Chennai, make announcement every 30 minutes, tell them, give them an update. People who are flying to Delhi, keep updating them. And when you keep updating them, people got more and more calmer. To the extent that people were personally asking me, what's next? What's next? I said, I'm not part of IndiGo. I don't know anything. I'm just making sure that as a customer, we get customer service. And the point I'm making is, as a customer, you have to go to IndiGo frontline staff and tell them, hey, this is how you provide customer service, because nobody has trained you in how you provide customer service in a crisis situation. You can tell that nobody was informing them. Nobody, as in their superiors, were not informing them. So let me tell you what happened. The misinformation. First is, this is how you get your customers not just disappointed but angry. So you have information that you then disseminate and confirm that to your customer, saying, if you're flying at 12:30, you change that. You say, the Pune flight is not coming in, so we are bringing in a flight from Hyderabad. Then the flight comes in from Hyderabad. Then you say, oh, well, we don't have a crew. And you say, okay, you need to stop this. You need to stop this. You need to work with the customer, because your customers are kept in the dark. And right now, you have absolutely no control of the narrative, because customers have lost faith in you. The way customers were reacting, they were going after each other. One incident, which was shocking to me, is they announced, they as in IndiGo staff, that the Bangalore flight is taking off. The passengers who were going to Chennai, they said, let's block the Bangalore passengers. And I said, that's just absurd. They are people like us who are struggling.
My God.
Why would you stop them? And
My
thankfully,
God.
I was able to push my message across. And thankfully, we were all able to board, fully exhausted. Some of the passengers really thanked me, but I was just literally trying to help IndiGo help us to get to Chennai, to get to a destination. Then what happens is the crew announced, but I think I don't want to blame them, uh, that the luggage will come at belt number 1. I saw the sign on belt number 1 that it was up for repair. Then the luggage came on belt number 5. So it was a total mess, total disaster. I had to cancel all my meetings on the 4th. And by the time I got to the hotel, it was 2 o'clock. So it was like, I've done a long trip from London to
My God.
Singapore, and I'm fully exhausted. And I wrote an email to the CEO, and I said, you failed everybody. You failed your airline. But the biggest thing is you failed your customer. The problem is what I was telling the fellow passengers is, you are all very forgiving. You will forget. In a week time, I guarantee all of this will disappear. And because these guys are basically a monopoly, uh, nothing can be done about it. So I don't know what the regulators will do. I don't know what the government will do. But at the end of the day, who's paying the price? The price is being paid by customers like me and millions of others. You were showing price surge. I don't call it price surge. I just say I see that as an exploitation. The regulators should come hard on these airlines and say, this is not right. This is not proper. This is not what I call capital market. This is just racketeering. So a regulator should say, hey, for example, I have to go to Mumbai from Chennai. The tickets are close to 100,000. I mean, 100,000 to go to Mumbai from Chennai. How is that possible? So the regulators should come hard and say, no, this is not allowed.
That's precisely what the grouse is now, that while IndiGo is cancelling flights, you have other airlines who are trying to extort. Well, I don't know if you can entirely blame them, but Captain Sanjay Karve, if you can give me a final word on that. Is this ethical? How can the ministry control this? If I want to now book my flight from Delhi to Bangalore, vice versa, who do I go to? If it's going to charge me 1 lakh, and I'd rather delay all my plans, and that's not fair on me.
I agree with you, Nabila. Unfortunately, the ministry has to step in. The DGCA does not have an authority on fares. or as to what the airline can charge. What the DGCA can tell the airline is to return the cancelled fare or have tickets which are reimbursable. So this is where the government needs to step in and say, hey, listen, you cannot have a surge which is 10 times the normal price or 20 times the normal price. Agreed, this is open market, you need to make profit. You add another 2,000 rupees is understandable. But a ticket which normally costs 5,000, you cannot charge 100,000. So this is where the government needs to step in. The DGCA, unfortunately, is tied down by its structure,
Yeah.
where it cannot interfere in its pricing.
Yeah. Correct. All right. So let's just hope, some sense prevails within the aviation sector. The airlines at this point should be a little more forgiving on people. And if there is a way they could bring down their prices and aid in the situation, that's what we hope for. But I really appreciate Captain Sanjay Karve and our stranded passenger who's finally made it to Chennai at least. Sanjeev Kumar, I hope you catch all your meetings and your further journey is seamless. Thank you.
Nabila,
Slip into a short break on that note. We'll be right back. On the other side, moral policing in 21st century India in a city like Bengaluru that's so forward advanced. Well, I'm going to take you through that story that'll shock you. Stay with us.